Hello and welcome to another Atypical Philosopher video with myself, Jonathan M.S. Pearce, a walk through the front lines today on October the 20th, 2022. Just a hint to remind you that you can listen to me on 1.25, 1.5, 1.75 or 2 times speed by pressing the cog on the YouTube video, just on the bottom right of the video usually, or maybe the top right, depending on what you're watching it on. And you can adjust the speed. I will speak more quickly and you'll get through this video quicker. Otherwise, you might listen to me in slow speed and I might sound like I need a rocket up my backside. Not a lot has happened in terms of exchanging territory on the front line, uh, but a few little bits to talk about. First of all, it's been a fairly quiet night, comparatively speaking. I've not seen many reports of places getting hit by cruise missiles or by kamikaze drones. Kamikaze drones usually need to be used in the daytime, it seems, because they need sort of visual reconnaissance. So they don't generally get used at night. Whereas cruise missiles, it's kind of program in, fire them at GPS. A lot of the loitering drones need to loiter to find their target before visually being able to see their target and then hitting it. So yeah, they often hit in the morning, whereas cruise missiles can hit in the evening at nighttime. So, but anyway, relatively quiet, at least as far as I can tell so far. A report here about conscripts being coming in en masse now, much larger amounts of conscripts. Here it says the aim is to get 60,000 Russian soldiers into. Well, they're struggling to house them or put them in units directly. So there are reports coming out that they are being put into housing in occupied regions, and people are having to either put up these people or being forced to leave their own houses for the Russian conscripts coming in. And they don't want to mass them all together because then they become an easy target. So anyway, that's a little bit of news. If we move to the Kupiansk front line, so just going to move up to this northeast corner here. I'm going to try out a new way of doing some mapping. I use really crap maps, which are basically screen grabs of Google Maps in 2D and then draw on them. And I really like that. I find they're quite clear. But I'm just going to trial something else, see what you think. Anyway, we're going to talk about Kupiansk area here, which is north of the Oskil River. Now, there has been reports of a place called Troitsky up here. This is very close to the Russian border, that they are starting to pull out their administration. Their Russian representatives in the city have left and can't carry out activities anymore. That's according to one report, a letter from the Troitsky administration, apparently. Now, this is similar to what happened in Svatove. There was reporting of people, administration and officials pulling out of Svatove as well a few weeks back, which is an indication that they're expecting to be attacked at some point. Now, Troitsky is an interesting one. If the Ukraine is hit Troitsky, then it takes out this rail link down to Luhansk and eventually Donetsk. I've said that the target should be Starobilsk. Starobilsk is not only a rail hub, well, it's a rail, a town sitting on that rail line, but it's a logistical sort of road hub here. As you can see, lots of roads come into Starobilsk. However, that is, closer to larger defenses and it's a larger place. Maybe Troitsky might be easier. But my issue with trying to take Troitsky is, yes, you'll take out the rail line, but you won't take out a lot of the road networks. And also, it's very close to the Russian border. However, anyway, Russians are apparently putting out of there as far as the administration is concerned. So here is the Kupiansk, the region that we're going to be looking at a little bit closely. There has been one tiny movement, and I'm going to show you on my new map. Here's my old map, which is drawing on Google Maps, and we're going to look at Tavozhanka, the area just around here, and the fact that the Russians are pushing back here. I said yesterday the Ukrainians are pushing towards Vilshane and Peshotrevnevi. It might be that they're actually concentrating further south now. Not sure what's really going on here, other than there is a movement of the Russians. So here is my Google Earth map. this obviously the blue represents the Ukrainian controlled area, and that goes right back. I just haven't covered the entirety of Ukraine, and I'm only concentrating on this part down to Bakhmut. So it's Bakhmut, Severodonetsk, Kreminna, then we move up to Svatove, and then to Kupiansk. So if we move into Kupiansk, and I was just talking about Troitsky, which is this area near the Russian border here. So if we move closer into Kupiansk, we have this. So here's Kupiansk. We have Tavilzhanka, and I was talking about Vilshane and Peshotravnevi and how the Ukrainians are either in control of Vilshane or they are contesting it quite heavily and moving towards Orliansky. Or there is, if we move in even closer here, such that we get Horobivka on the map. Apparently, the Russians have taken Horobivka. So if I now do my funky move the map, whoop, we can see that they now control Horobivka, at least according to this map. So it's probably looking something like that. But we shall see. And they are pushing on Dvorichny as well. So there is a pushback here in terms of the a Russian sort of counterattack. So anyway, there you go. I'll get better at doing that. So a bit of a change there, but other than that, nothing has particularly changed. Okay, we come down, or at least there's no news really coming out of anywhere about anything particularly. We move past Svatove. They are within so close to being within striking distance, and arguably there's artillery can. So if we see how far that is to Svatove, 17 kilometers. So 17.5 kilometers. So you can certainly get some artillery attacking Svatove. Depends how close you want your artillery to the front line. Okay, so as we come down to Kreminna here, we see that we have the same situation, contested area around here, Russians claiming their counterattacks, putting Terny and Torsky under artillery pressure. And we're going to move further down to Bakhmut. Yay. So here we are in Bakhmut. This is Bakhmut. And we have the Russians still knocking on the door of Bakhmutsky, Solidar, and then trying to push around. So they encircle Bakhmut from the north. Get this road out of there. If they can cross that road, then that's very useful for them. And they want to move towards Ivanisky to start to properly encircle and cut off the logistics. But they are still. I haven't heard much news other than they're still pressuring Klishchivka in the south. And as we are here, let's have a look at a few things to do with Bakhmut. So here was my old map of Bakhmut. Nice and clear. I quite like that. You know, nothing wrong with just drawing on a 2D map. First thing to note is that around this area, so this is Bakhmut, this is in Russian. This is Wagner making claims that they have put in some pretty extensive defensive Dragon's Teeth and possibly trenches all the way along here. So this is actually quite substantial. Just to give you an idea of how far that goes, here is the zoomed in map. So Bakhmut is here, and it will be some way back from there, up past Lysychansk, and all the way down here, back pretty much to the Russian border. So in fact, we need to go to the main map to say Bakhmut. We've got trenches and Dragon's Teeth going all the way up here, coming back round and coming, basically following this river, and then go north of the city of Luhansk, pretty much to the Russian border. That is what there's Luhansk there. That is what this line represents, which is formidable. Now, again, when I've talked about these kind of defenses before, it's thinking, what are their intentions? So their intentions are to be able to defend Donetsk, which means that they are at some point expecting an attack from the north, which is to say that they are preparing to lose Luhansk, or at least the northern part of the oblast of Luhansk. So we come back to here. Here's Luhansk Oblast, and it comes right down here, and you have the city of Luhansk. and they're putting their defenses around sort of where they had the 2014 annexation. They've taken a little bit more now towards Luhansk, but they've put this um, defensive defenses around the Luhansk border here on the west, and then following this river. So really, they're protecting this Donetsk region and the southern part of Luhansk. And are they accepting that yes, eventually they are going to lose this, or is it just being cautious? So that's worthy of note. You've also got here's a video of Bakhmut and the kind of area that they are contesting. This is what war does. And you still have people living there trying to live in Bakhmut and do their daily business, and then they're surrounded by buildings like this. I don't know. But again, not really a lot of news. In fact, that's pretty much the same everywhere. There are some claims. The Russians have made claims that Sorry, I've just gone straight back down past the Zaporizhzhia front line to these lakes around Zaporizhzhia reservoir. The Enerhodar nuclear power plant, there's another claim, a third claim from the Russians, that there has been an attempt at a landing, an amphibious attack from the Ukrainians. Whether that is true or not is completely open. They've made a couple of these claims before, and they don't appear to have been true. We know that there has been some boat movements of the Ukrainians, and they have been doing some landing practices around the Zaporizhzhia area. So that could be something that's happened, but there's no actual evidence of it happening. And then we're back down to Kherson. Now, the claims again are that not a lot has happened. Possibly another set of probing attacks, 2 probing attacks down through Kupiansk-Svatove-Kreminna and more towards the coast on the way to Borislav. There are some claims that the Russians are slowly dumping water from this reservoir through the Novokakhovka Dam. And the reason they're doing that is, as you've heard on the news and as I reported yesterday, the Russians are pulling out civilians from Kherson and the west bank of the to the west of the Dnipro River. And in doing so, this leaves mainly troops behind. Are the Russians? One theory is that they are worried that the Ukrainians will let this dam go and thus turn off the fresh water to Crimea and flood out all the troops from Kherson. So in order to stop them doing this, they are slowly dumping water out of there. But again, this would signify that they are expecting to lose this whole area and lose the fresh water to Crimea anyway. There are different theories. Then the counter theory is that the Russians could blow this dam, just completely blow it, destroy Kherson as a city as this all completely floods. And this then ruins electricity production, even though they would lose the Crimean fresh water. It's kind of like, we're going to lose it anyway, so we might as well blow this up as we go and screw you. So different theories there. It appears that the Russians are building substantial trenches around here, so it might be fairly difficult for an advance. But then there are also claims that there could be the Ukrainians could have amassed something like 60,000 troops here, or even more. Some of the bigger figures are like 100,000. It would be quite amazing if they'd done that and kept it that quiet. The operational security is pretty good here. There's a media blackout. But the reason why Russians could be trying to evacuate people as quickly as possible is because they know that there are this many troops waiting to come in. You would be expecting some kind of operational tactical withdrawal here to keep as many troops as possible and lose their equipment. But there's also sort of cynically, people are saying that this kind of withdrawal of civilians out of Kherson is a way of finding out who the collaborators, or not the collaborators, who the saboteurs are in Kherson, and who's helping the Ukrainians in a kind of way to filter those people. Anyway, that's going on there. So these trench building exercises we've seen in the Luhansk area. So this is kind of the Luhansk trench building that's been going on. With it's not very good resolution, this video, sorry, with all the dragon's teeth and the huge sort of engineering works that are going on up there. To some degree, that is happening in the Kherson region. Now, here's a little tidbit to show you possibly a difference between the way the Ukrainians are doing some trenches. This tweet says that the Ukrainians are using British tactics very effectively, i.e. not digging long exposed trenches like the Russians continue to use a la World War II.
И ушел в подземный путь. Блять.
And actually, I have seen a number of Russian trenches. I've seen a lot of trenches get sort of hit by drone and artillery strikes, and some videos I can't share with you. But I've seen a lot of Russian trenches with just full of deceased combatants. So they aren't necessarily the great defensive work if you can take out those trenches, if effectively exactly where all the soldiers are, so you can take them out because they're all lined up in those trenches. And just to go back to drones, here's a compilation of Lancet drones, because drone strikes are a problem. So this is particularly for the Kherson and Zaporizhzhia region. I've talked about this the last couple of days. There seem to be a lot of Lancet drones hammering doing kind of seed operations, suppression of enemy air defense operations around the Kherson and Zaporizhzhia region. And I've said this is a bit of a worry. I don't know whether they have just compiled videos over months or whether this is genuinely happening a lot in the last couple of weeks. This person says Spetsnaz, so the special forces of the Russians, have got a massive batch of these Lancet drones and have been destroying all kinds of stuff with them over the past 2 weeks in Kherson and Zaporizhzhia, from S-300 air defense to tanks and radars, even using them against groups of Ukrainian soldiers. So this is true. I mean, they have been hitting these things, and it does seem to be a larger concentration in the last couple of weeks. This is a worry. Drones are a worry, and the problem is that these drones and the Shahed Iranian drones, they are becoming very expensive to combat. In other words, the rockets they're using to take them down are really expensive. They're using Iris-T rockets, and I'll talk about this in the extra video later. There's an asymmetry in the amount of money and effort being expended to send these drones up and the amount of money being used to take them down. And it's just, that is a worry. Last thing to say, because this is all partly to do with like the overall strategy in the area. So the Ukrainians took out the Kerch Bridge, and there are signs up around the Kerch Bridge detailing the detour that Russian drivers need to make if they want to get to Crimea. And Defmon has both shown the original letters, done a Google Translate of the original letters or posters, and then shown exactly how long that detour is. So that is a solid drive of 15 and a half hours. Then that's just in a car, right? If you're talking about trucks and a consistent logistical sort of network here, then this is hugely inefficient. This is precisely what Ukraine wanted to do with the Kerch Bridge, hitting the Kerch Bridge. So that affects the Russian logistics quite tangibly. Anyway, there you go. So not a lot of movements, but hopefully you've listened to this on ×2 speed. Let me know about whether you like my crappy maps or the Google Earth attempt to make things look a bit more professional. But there you go. Anyway, thank you for hanging out. Check out my Ukraine War Update extra video that will come out later with all the tidbits and extra nuggets. Toodle pips, thanks for all your help and support.